everyone. Had a massive technical glitch. So massive technical glitch this morning. So I'm hoping everything is okay. Yeah, I wasn't able to connect to Facebook in time to get everything going. So hopefully I am in your face and this is all working. I think it's working. I have no idea. Oh my gosh, technology, people, technology. So I hope you are doing well this morning. All right, I'm a little flustered, but that's okay because we're going to get through this. So let me make sure everything is being shared and that people can tune into us. This is going to be tons and tons of fun. So I'm looking forward to all of this. So let me share this out because technical glitches, you can't really woo. And you all have been here before. You watch me long enough to know that sometimes this crap just happens. But on today's show, the show will go on and we will talk about how to land speaking gigs with your podcast. So if I didn't share this out to the proper places, forgive me. I will share it when I'm done. Let me go ahead and get this started here over on Instagram as well. Yay. I had to wake up someone in the middle of the night. See, this is why you don't let people touch your computer the day before. Oh my gosh. Whenever he touches the computer, it breaks. I know. We're just going to blame it all on him. So I hope everyone's doing well this morning. So if I'm coming up in your feed, if you're listening to the podcast, if you're watching me here over on Instagram, I am Phylecia Jones, budgetologist and solopreneur money management expert, and you are watching Ask the Budgetologist. I come to you live every morning and answer any questions you have about business, budgeting, and solo entrepreneurship when there isn't a massive technical glitch happening. You got to have to roll with the punches sometimes. But what we're going to talk about today is mainly around feeding your budget. All of this week, it is podcast week here on the budget, on Ask the Budgetologist. And we are talking about how to launch, leverage, and land speaking gigs with your podcast. And if you don't have a podcast yet, this is my sole plea for you to think about using this type of method of marketing to kind of level up your business, your career, and especially if you are a speaker. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And you might be asking, why are we talking about speaking on a budgeting show? Hey, Tom Drake in Canada, how you doing? Well, when it comes to budgeting, there's two sides to it. You have to manage your budget. You also have to feed it. And for the last year, I have been talking about feeding your budget through speaking, but I also love this method of podcasting. It is a really cool thing to add to your business. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And this is in partnership with my friends over at Podcast Websites. They are an amazing all-in-one solution to help you get your podcast out to the world, because as speakers, we just don't have time to waste. Seriously, we don't have time to waste when we want to get gigs on our calendar. So, all right, let me just say a little hello. I got to kind of calm down just for a little bit. Hey, Twyla. Hey, Heather. And yes, technology is so fun sometimes. You see the fun on my face this morning? Thank you, Heather. I had to get a haircut yesterday, so that's what's happening with the hair right now. You will never see it like this ever again. Just trust me on this one. Thank you, Beatrice. Hey, Erica. Hey, Aisha. How are you doing? And yes, my husband is a programmer. He makes video games for a living, and he is the default tech guy. Hey, Elaine. For all of you over in Instagram. Hey, Elaine, Tashari, Drake. I call you Drake, but it's Mr. Tom Drake, Urban Essentials. I hope everyone is doing well this morning. We are going to launch into landing speaking gigs with your podcast. So get your pens and paper out. Seriously, get your pens and paper out. I want you to take notes because I have been a speaker coordinator for about 2.5 years now. I'm about to step down from one of the organizations, but it has been very interesting being on both sides of the speaker aisle and as being a coordinator. And I'm going to step into my speaker coordinator shoes today because I want to give you a few tips on how to pitch just a little bit better, but actually how to pitch with your podcast. And this is just for me. If you were to ever pitch me, this is what I would like to see as a speaker coordinator. So this is my dream job, telling you how I would love for you to pitch me, but I also know that it can work for other people. Now, remember, all of these things are just experiments for you to try. Pitching is not the same for everyone, is not for the same for everyone on the other side. But I want to give you just a few techniques so that you can think about and add into what you're doing when you're out there trying to get speaking gigs. So, I need some tea. Oh my gosh. All right. I hate technology in the morning sometimes. All right, so let's go ahead. I just dropped hot tea on me. This is going to be a perfect day today. All right, let's go ahead and get started into landing speaking gigs with your podcast. All right. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that, one, you need to determine your message, okay? If you want to land speaking gigs with your podcast, or if you want to land speaking gigs, period, you need to determine your message. And when I say message, you got to figure out who you're talking to and what you're telling them. I see this a lot, even with some of my clients. They want to speak, but they haven't figured out who they're talking to. And they say, I speak to everyone. When you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. You need to figure out who you are talking to and what you are telling them and what you want them to do. That's the thing. Who, what, and what you want them to do, okay? Because I did this in the beginning, and even though I kind of knew my audience, but you need to know specifically who you're talking to, okay? Because when you launch this podcast, you got to figure out who you're talking to. When you're doing this podcast, just like when I do mine, you don't know who's on the other side. So you got to find someone. You got to find someone to talk to, and you need to talk specifically to them, okay? That's what you have to do. It's not much different than landing speaking gigs, but you need to figure out who you're talking to, what you're trying to tell them, and what you want them to do with the information you're going to tell them, okay? So you got to think about that. And this is hard. This is very hard for a lot of people because they say, I can talk to anyone. I even have a client right now. She is fighting me because I'm telling her, you need to narrow down to an industry. She said, but I have clients everywhere. I know, we all have clients everywhere. We can talk to everyone. But when you are sitting at a microphone and you don't have anyone directly in front of you, you're going to have to make this person up. And we've heard about it. This is your avatar. This is your ideal client. This is your best friend who's sitting on the other side of the table. I want you to get very clear on what you're trying to tell them and what you want them to do. All right. Now, if you have questions around that, let me know. Annette is saying, what example would you give from changing a fluffy message to a specific message? Annette, hold on to that one so I can get back to it. Okay. And to be honest, hey, Maya, how you doing? And to be honest, Annette, this is where, when it comes from a fluffy message to a very specific message, you need to figure out who you're talking to. That's how I want to answer that one, Annette. Who are you talking to? Because what happens when we talk to everyone, we're in the fluffy. I'm just going to be straight up honest to you. We are in the fluffy because, one, we don't want to make people mad. We don't want to step on any toes, and we want to be liked. That's what happens when you have a fluffy message, is that you're trying to be liked by everyone. What you need to do to get non-fluffy is narrow down, clear out the path of all the people who you think you're talking to, and go specifically to this one person. Specifically to this one person, you know? And this is where, like, if you were my avatar, Annette, it will be like, look, we need to get off our butt and do some work. My show is specifically just for you, because if we were at a bar and you were to come up to me and ask for help, I'm going to talk to you in this exact manner. So that's who you have to figure out, how you talk when you're after happy hour. But no, seriously, you got to figure out exactly who you're talking to. And if you are in the world of fluffy, you need to narrow that down and talk specifically, not to an ideal audience, but to one person. Because that one person is out there and they want to hear the way you talk, the way you say it, because they're only going to take action when you do it. Okay. And it's just so, here's an example. You know how you're all married? Some of you are married, and how when you tell your husband to do things, it's like deaf ears. But when you bring in a professional, all of a sudden off his butt and he goes and does it. Yeah, that's exactly how we need to get when it comes to the message. Okay. Twilight saying, I tell my clients all the time, your ideal client avatar is you before your own transformation is in what you're teaching others to do. Maya is saying, I'm still trying to edit my podcast. Girl, stop editing and post it. Stop, edit, and publish. Okay. Heather saying, posts with opinions or a specific stance get way more traffic and engagements that don't. Yes, you got to be very specific, okay? So when you are looking at landing speaking gigs, launching your podcast, these are going to go hand in hand because I'm going to tell you how to get your podcast in front of that audience. But first, I need you to determine your message, who you're telling it to, what you're telling them, and what you want them to do. And this is going to be very hard for you as a speaker and for you as a podcaster because everybody wants to help everybody. You can only help one person. Think of it. One day, every day you can help one person, and that's not everyone. All right. Hey, Joseph, how you doing this morning? All right. The second thing you need to do to land speaking gigs with your podcast is launch your podcast. Yeah, seriously. If you haven't launched that podcast, if you're still sitting there editing, if you're still trying to figure out what to say, when to say it, what's the title of it, who I'm going to interview, here's the thing. You need to launch it sooner rather than later. That's why I love podcast websites, because their goal is to make sure that you get your podcast out quickly and professionally. They do all that other stuff for you, you know. I don't know if they add editing on there yet, but they do have resources inside of their community so that you can get someone to help edit. But here's the thing. And just to give you a point of reference, right now it is August. I'm doing research for myself to land speaking gigs. I have clients that I help get speaking gigs for. And right now, most people are booking for 2019. That means from now until the end of this year, you better be pitching your butt off if you want to get gigs at the beginning of 2019. If you wait too long, you're going to have all your speaking gigs piled up in the fall, which is not a bad thing, but you're going to be sitting around being all antsy waiting until the fall. But if you want speaking gigs to kick off your winter and fall, you got to get on it now. And if you want to use podcasting as a way to do it, you better get on it right now, okay? Tom Drake in Canada, he's over in Calgary. He's saying he launched his podcast last month. Now, I've known Tom for a couple of years now from Success Incubator, and he said, only took me a year longer than I wanted. And that's the thing. If you keep sitting down waiting, you're going to wait. I was the same way, Tom. I was the same exact way. I waited way too long. I think I waited 2 years longer than what I wanted to do with my podcast. I'm trying to let you know, don't wait. Seriously, get off of it. Please, I'm going to put the link in the comment box. Go keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites. I want you to just schedule an appointment with them and just talk to them about how they can help you get this podcast out quicker, okay? Because as a speaker, I don't want you to sit around just waiting. Now, here's the thing. No, you don't need a podcast to get speaking gigs. But what we're talking about this week is just the level 2 of making sure you get in front of the right people, okay? So that's why I love podcast websites, so that you can get this out there faster and not waiting a year too long, waiting to edit, waiting for your graphics, waiting. The longer you wait, the longer you are waiting to get your podcast in the hands of speaker coordinators, okay? And Annette saying, not everyone wants your help, and it's not about trying to convince everyone. No, not everybody wants you. You are not everybody's cup of tea. Remember that. All right, so we've talked about 2 things so far. Number 1, determine your message. Number 2, launch the podcast. Seriously, launch it. The editing is daunting, Maya, but here's the thing. You don't have to edit. I don't edit my podcast, but it also depends on if you're trying to be perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. And the beautiful thing about editing is that you can get better over time. But what I don't want you to do is sit and wait, because you can sit on that show number 1 for about a year, and it really sucks. And so, Tom, please let us know what's the name of your podcast so we can all go and check it out, okay? All right, number 3, when you're ready to get out there and look for speaking gigs, I want you to research the organizations that you want to pitch. Now, here's where it all starts to come full circle. Remember, I told you need to figure out what's your message, okay? who you're talking to, what you're saying to them, and what you want them to do. So now I want you to research the organization. What a lot of people do, and what I see as a speaker coordinator, is that a lot of folks just pitch. They use a standard template and they just pitch, and they didn't do any research. I can tell within the first 2 sentences that they didn't even look at the website. They don't even know how many members we have. They've never seen our Facebook group. They've never seen a thing. That's what I don't want you to do. Because when it comes down to getting your podcast in front of a speaker coordinator's hand, if you're sending your podcast to me and you're trying to pitch me for speaking gigs, what I want you to do is kind of do at least 5 minutes worth of research. The organization is all over the internet. It doesn't take that much to do research, because now what you're going to do is find a very specific show in your catalog of podcasts, and you're going to send it to me, or you're going to send it to that speaker coordinator, because it needs to be relevant. It needs to be relevant. Seriously, if I'm doing a financial conference and you're sending me a podcast about how to tie shoelaces, not very relevant. Even though you have a podcast and that's great, it's not very relevant. But if I'm doing a financial conference and we're really trying to get in marketing people, and you have a one specific show on marketing, all right, you can get me a little bit interested in what you're doing and what you're saying. Okay. This is why you can't just send someone your podcast when it doesn't work very well. Okay. If it's a very conservative group and you're just blindly pitching and you send them your podcast and you're like uber liberal, ooh, ain't going to work out very well. So think about that. Okay. Think about it. Maya is saying, oh my gosh, Maya has been sitting on her podcast for 4 months. Maya, get up and launch. Get up and launch. If you need help, if you're ready to invest a little bit with getting that launch, I want you to go check out podcast websites. Otherwise, even if you don't check them out, I just want you to launch it. I want you to launch it within the next 30 days, and I want you to send it to me. I don't care how crappy it is. I just want you to get it out there, because what's going to happen, you're going to find other reasons to keep sitting on this podcast, okay? And I've been seeing what you're doing. You need to get your voice out there, young lady. You need to do it now. Annette is saying, it's like the people that contact me to be a guest on my podcast that don't have anything to do with dance. Oh my gosh, I get those all the time too. It's like, people, really do the research when you're ready to go after an organization, okay? All right, Tom Drake Canada. You can go follow him over on Instagram. His show is the Maple Money Show. So you got to go check it out. I'll go check it out, Tom, because I know I'm going to see you in a month at FinCon. All right. So we got that. Any questions? So we got our message. We've launched our podcast. We're not sitting and editing. We're not doing that. And we are right now at the point where we are researching organizations, because we're going to look at our catalog of shows so that we can send the right show to that right speaker coordinator. Okay. So 4, you're going to pitch using a podcast that is relevant. I already kind of said this, but this is 4 on my list. So we got to follow the list. You're going to pitch using a podcast show that is relevant to that organization. Remember, so here's an example of what your pitch could look like. Don't send an entire email about how I'm amazing, how I'm in town, how I did this, how I did that. That's okay. That's not okay. I'm sorry. Don't do that. You got to remember, when you are pitching either on the phone, through email, you have to make it about them. Make it about that specific speaker coordinator. Make it about that seminar host, that workshop host. Make it about that event coordinator. Make it about them and their audience, okay? That's who you have to talk to. Not, I'm amazing, I'm great, I'm awesome, you should book me. No, you have to lead with, hey, I'm going to do this off the top of my head, so it's going to be very rough. Dear Annette, I'm so excited about your upcoming workshop. I have been paying attention to your group over the last 6 months. That means you've been watching us. And I noticed that In April, you had a speaker who talked about the 12 best ways to market. I'm also a marketing expert, and I just did a show on the 5 things you should avoid in marketing so that you can make more money. I would love to talk to you about speaking in front of your group, but first, I would love for you to take a listen to my podcast, and then I will contact you in a couple of days to see what you think. See how simple that is? Now, will it work all the time? Probably not, but you never know. For that one person, it's like, all right, this is kind of cool. You didn't tell me how you were so amazing, but you sent me a show. You showed a few things that I, as a speaker coordinator, would love. Hey, you've been following our group for 6 months. You noticed that we had a very specific speaker that talked about something, and now you have a counter argument or counter topic, and you just did a show on it. All right. You made me interested. Remember, I told you this a couple of weeks ago. As a speaker, your goal is to make speaker coordinators open up the email, read the subject line, read past the first sentence, and to say, this is interesting. I'll click. After they click, you want them to say, this is interesting. I'll actually reply to you. That's your job, okay? And so it's not much different when you're pitching normally. I just want you to use some extra street cred, okay? Not just your speaker one sheet, not just your website, and if you don't have a video yet, that's okay. But I want them to hear your voice, hear your personality, hear your energy, and so that they can decide if it's a right fit for their group. If you're monotonous and they are like a group of, probably not going to work out very well. But if it's a very cool going group and you're a very cool going person, you want them to hear that in you when they hear your voice. I'm trying to let you know, podcasting is very intimate. It is a very intimate thing. Being on stage is great, but when you want to build a relationship with someone, that podcast can be the most intimate relationship you can build, because it's just you, me, the headphones in my little private office, and I have to feel as if you are talking directly to me. That's the beauty of a podcast. You're talking directly to me, and I feel like we are having a conversation. Okay? That's what I want you to do when you are pitching. I want you to have a conversation directly with that speaker coordinator so that she or he can understand, all right, this person can be a really good fit for our audience. Okay? Think about that. If you have questions, put them down in the comment box. Tom is saying, thanks for a shout out. See you soon. Karaoke. Yes, karaoke again at Success Incubator. And just to let you all know, I'm speaking at Success Incubator in Orlando. It's going to be so much fun. So much fun. Annette, Twyla saying, great pitch. Thank you. I did that off the top of my head. Woo. I don't have enough caffeine in me, and I don't even drink coffee to do that again. Annette is saying that I know many dance choreographers that pitch that way, unfortunately. How great and available they are to teach. And even if they are, it even puts me off, and some of the people are my friends. Here's the thing, that type of pitching, it can work, but it's kind of a spray and pray method. You got to do it a lot to get people to eventually convert into interest. But what I want you to do is take that conversation and make it a little bit more intimate, because we know when things are a little bit more intimate, people will listen to us a little bit faster. Okay. And Twyla's saying, if you don't get your message and voice out there, someone else will. Then you'll have to rethink it all. Yes, you're so right, Twyla. If you don't get your voice and message out there, people like me will just scoop in and get our voices and our message out there. So seriously, if you're sitting around waiting to launch this podcast, don't wait any longer. Okay. Our friends over at podcast websites, they can help you. If they can't help you, you can search the internet for days. And I just want you to get started. Okay. Maya, what about the editing that is daunting? So Annette is asking, what is so daunting about the editing? And yes, Annette is saying that podcasting is very intimate. You are in someone's ears and they are choosing to listen to you. That's the thing. And remember that. Thank you for that, Annette. When you are sending your podcast to speaker coordinators, and if your pitch is good, and if your topic is relevant, and you get them to read past the first sentence to click on the button, at that exact moment, they chose to listen to you. So you better make sure you got something to say to them, all right? Make sure you have something to say that they want to listen to. All right? And Twyla's saying, yes, podcasts are very intimate. That's why you need to know who you're talking to and speak life. Speak like they're sitting right in front of you. Yes. Yes. And that's the thing, what I love about this live stream. And I love about the fact that this goes into a podcast. And Twyla can attest to this because we talk all the time. I probably don't talk much differently when I'm on the phone or when I'm in person, because I'm talking to a very specific person. I'm talking to the person that is just like me, that was sitting around waiting and hoping for opportunities to fall in her lap. And this is the voice of, girl, get off your butt and go and make things happen. That's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the people who are like, oh my gosh, I need to be in a Zen moment. No, I'm weeding all of those people out. I'm going to the person that needs to kick in the butt to get up and start doing what they need to do. That's why I know my audience is very specific to me. And I know that I can sit here and talk to you this way because my goal is I need you to be successful. I need you to get out there, but I also want to give you information that I know you can use. And I'm not going to BS around with you with a lot of people who will fluffy your butt away just to get money from you. That's not my goal, because I need you to get out there and change the world, because we ain't got time to sit around waiting. All right. Twyla saying I'm the same everywhere. Thank you. All right. So number 5. All right, we've determined our message. We've launched our podcast. We've researched the organization. We've pitched with a very specific and relevant show to that speaker coordinator. And then we are following up. Here's where we always mess up. We never follow up. The number of times, and I've done it myself as a speaker, you just don't follow up. You don't make that extra phone call. You don't send that additional email. This is where you will lose a lot of speaking gigs, and that is not following up. Because what we do, we send out that email and we just sit here and pray. For those of you listening to the podcast, I'm praying. That's what we do. We send the one email because we're so scared, because we don't want to sound salesy. We don't want to be aggressive. We send that email and then we just sit here and they'll contact me. I'm great. No, you're going to have to put a follow-up plan in place. Whatever your rhythm is, I don't care, do it. If your rhythm is 3 touches, if it's 5 touches, if it's 10, for me to land speaking clients, not speaking clients, but to land speaking clients, I almost have like 2 touches that I need to do, because people want to know how to speak and get gigs really quickly. Hey, Barb, how you doing over there? But when it comes to my money clients, I have to do about 9 touches. So I can't give up after the first email or the first phone call. And it's the same with speaking gigs. You're going to have to, you may be surprised. It may take 10, 12, 15 touches to get in front of some organizations. This year, I finally landed a spot to speak at FinCon. Do you know how many times I've been waiting to do that? That's years, because it only comes around once a year. So you got to sit and wait. And so you cannot sit around and just hope it works out the first time. You cannot hope. Hey, Kat, how you doing? So you got to put in that follow-up strategy. If it's send that first initial pitch email, send the next email a couple of days later, pick up the phone. You'd be surprised how many people never pick up the phone to talk to me about them speaking. There was one person who actually did the whole process. I could tell she had a follow-up process, and I loved it because I didn't respond the first time. I didn't respond the second time. I think by the 5th time, it was a phone call, and I was like, you know what? I like you. You're booked. Because she held in there, and it wasn't because I was ignoring her. I was honestly just straight up busy, and because the emails just kind of go fast. That's another thing as a speaker coordinator. When you're pitching me by emails, I get so many emails a day. So if you can kind of get me out of my email to listen to you, I mean, the best way is to invite me. But if I can listen to you, now you're in my head. So now I can remember to contact you back. Okay. So you got to put in that follow-up strategy. Okay. Don't give up after the first email. Please, for the love of all that's holy, don't give up after the first email. You will lose so many speaking gigs just because you were too scared to send a follow-up email. Annette is saying, I try not to tell people have to do unless they ask, because we make our own choices. But you're right. You have to launch ASAP because your message can either change or develop as you consistently podcast. But without doing it, that won't happen. Heather is saying it takes anywhere from 5 contacts and beyond to get a yes in sales. I know that. Yeah. Depending on what I'm working on, I can go up to 12 contacts, 12 touches, however you want to say it. With the speaking stuff, it takes about 2 to 3. When it comes to getting speaking gigs, it's taken over a couple of years for some of the speaking gigs that I've landed. And sometimes those are just heavy, the long game relationships. So that's why I'm telling you this podcast can kind of shorten that relationship a little bit faster, because people can hear your voice and then they can start building that relationship with you and see you as an expert, or at least they can see you as just being fun and you have a new subscriber. What's the worst case that can happen? You got new subscribers for your podcast. All right. All right. Oh, I kind of went out of place. I went out of order with what I'm supposed to tell you. I was supposed to tell you this before following up. But the one thing I want you to do is connect with the people, the speaker coordinators or the event coordinators, or with that event on social media if possible. And I'm telling you this because if you can connect with them over social media, you can get more information about the organization and you can start using their language. Using their language when you do a specific podcast show, or when you do a specific talk, or when you do a specific pitch. This is why the people that you are trying to pitch for, I want you to follow them on social media so that you can start getting closer and closer to using their words when you want to pitch, okay? And if you sent that initial email with your initial pitch, now when you started connecting with them on social media, you can share things, you can share out information, you can invite people to their organizations if you can. If this is possible, not all organizations are that open all the time, depending on the type of speaking gig you're going for, but you can make a presence with them on social media. You'd be surprised. People really like when you engage with them. So you're going to have to go the extra steps sometimes to get in front of some people. Okay. Now, the final thing that I'm going to tell you, I feel like I'm on a marathon here, and please share this out. If you know of other speakers, I know it's kind of hard. Like, I want to keep all this information to myself. Please share this out. If you have a friend that is a speaker that you know is struggling to get more gigs, especially if you have a friend that's sitting on a podcast, waiting to edit, waiting to publish, afraid of their own voice, share this out. I would love it if you do it. Okay. And if this has been helpful, please let me know if it's been helpful, because I'm going to have something very special for all of you. Oh, you won't know about it until Friday, but I'm going to have something special for all of you. If this has been helpful, let me know. The final thing, wash, rinse, repeat. That's it. What I just gave you was literally a system. Tashari already shared this to her network. Thank you, Tashari. We're going to have to connect. It's been over a year since we've talked to each other. So Tashari is on Instagram. She is a powerhouse financial advisor, and she specifically goes after athletes. Oh my gosh, she is amazing and kicking butt. So you can go follow her over at Sports WFG over on Instagram. Please go follow her. I love her. I've only met her one time and fell in love with her instantly. I know, but she's kicking. I love when I see young, powerful women in money that are going to take over the world. Girl crush. There you go. Girl crush. But what I want to tell you is wash, rinse, repeat. What I just gave you is a straight up system. And what a lot of us do as speakers is that we do things out of order, or we happenstance do one thing. We don't follow up. We put out a show. We don't send it. We don't tell people. All of these things I have done. I put out a podcast, didn't tell anybody. I said I was a speaker, but it didn't tell anybody I was a speaker. I half-ass pitch sometimes. I didn't follow up. I've done all of these things, but when you start putting this stuff in order and you do it on a regular basis, it will work. If you get rejected the first few times, that's okay. Rejection is just a way for you to learn what you need to do better. That's what it is. These are all just experiments. You're going to have to take this and make it work for you. But you cannot give up when you did it the one time and you come back like, Phylecia, I pitched one time and sent somebody my podcast and they didn't like it. Seriously, you did it one time? Really? One time? Seriously, if you are basketball fans, this is for you, Tashari. If Steph Curry missed one basket and gave up after that, we would probably not be watching one of the greatest basketball players ever. Seriously, you cannot give up after one time. You got to follow this process. Wash, rinse, repeat. Over and over again. You got to make this a system inside of your life. If you want to get speaking gigs, make it a part of your business. Schedule out time. I've told you about this many times. Every Tuesday, you're going to have to schedule out time so that you can do this, okay? So I'm going to repeat this method over and over again right now. I'm just going to do it one time, actually. 1, determine your message, who you're talking to, what you're trying to tell them, and what you want them to do. That's the first thing you need to figure out quickly. And sometimes you need to do this every time you're about to research or about to go for a new speaking gig. Number 2, launch the podcast. I'm telling you, speaker one sheets are great. You got to have one. Having your website is great. But I want you to kind of level up a little bit and do something that a lot of speakers aren't doing. Annette asked me this the other day. Do I book speakers for my groups if they have podcasts? And what I said was, to be honest, most of the speakers I know don't even have podcasts. And if they did, it would help me a whole lot so that I can hear more about their voices. Do what the others aren't doing, okay? Think outside, not outside the box. Think in a whole brand new box. Let them think outside the box. We're going to go play in a different box, okay? So launch the podcast. Number 3, research the organization. Stop being lazy. Seriously, stop being lazy. It takes 5 minutes to do like quick scroll through research to figure out if a group is the group you want to be in front of. Stop being lazy, all right? Do a little bit of research. Stop pitching to people that aren't your audience. Stop it. Just stop. Stop it right now. All right. Number 4, use your podcast to pitch. Make sure you have a relevant show after you've done the research and send that relevant show to that organization, to that speaker coordinator, to that event host. Do it, okay? Make sure you do it. I know Heather's laughing at me. Hey, Rena, how you doing? So after you pitch using a relevant show out of your podcast, I want you to follow up. Seriously, stop not following up. Don't give up after the first time, all right? You got to follow up, and you're going to have to figure out how many touches. And this is where it gets hard, because a lot of people ask, well, how many touches does it take? I don't know. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to experiment for a while to determine what your touch rhythm is, okay? For me, I've kind of figured out when it comes to money clients, it takes about 12 touches and about 8 months to convert. Takes a long time when I'm going after money clients. Going after speaking clients, it takes about two months. For getting speaking gigs, it really depends. It can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months. I've pitched things back in January and I'm just getting emails now. So you gotta follow up, okay? You gotta follow up. You cannot give up after the first email, all right? The next thing is, this is number 6, connect with this group, this person, whoever you're going after over social media. The more you can learn about this group, and like I said, I did this out of order, but that's okay. You can do this before and after. The more you can learn about this group, the more you can share, the more you can contribute if you can. That gets you closer to using their words so that you can follow up properly and you can also pitch properly, okay? So think about that. And the last thing is wash, rinse, repeat. This is a system. This is not a one-time thing. This is something you're going to have to be consistent at. If you want to get more gigs on your calendar, you're going to have to be consistent. This is not something you wake up like, oh my gosh, tomorrow I want to speak. I'm going to send out one email and I'm going to follow this and then be really pissed off because nobody's contacting me. No. I had to do this. What I do, and I've told you this, every Wednesday for 8 hours, this is what I do. I do this right here. I sit down and I do my research and I start pitching for 8 hours. That's gotten me the speaking gigs that I got this year. And I'm going to go ahead and announce it, everyone. Oh no, I can't announce it yet. But a group with a T called me last night. I'll tell you more about it. I want to make sure that I can announce it properly, but it's a T with a, yep. This is something you have to do consistently. All right. You gotta have to do it consistently. All right. For those of you who are sitting on the fence, looking and waiting on your podcast, please, I want you to reach out to my friends over at podcast websites. Go to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites. Just talk to them. See if it's a right fit for you. And it's going to take some investment on your part. We can budget that in. We can budget it in. But it's going to take some investment on your part if you want to use podcasting to launch speaking gigs. And like I said, you don't have to use this. If you want to get speaking gigs, you still have to follow this system. But you're going to have to figure out a way. I'm not saying that out loud yet, Tom. So you're going to have to figure out what your system is and a way to kind of do something a little bit different to get your voice in front of these speaker coordinators. Okay. And I love podcasting. Like I said, it is creating an intimate relationship. Yesterday, we talked about how you can make money from your podcast and through your podcast. And because of your podcast, and it can be a game changer. My friend Will Deschazo over on my personal page, he said, podcasting and speaking are two career game changing events that can happen for you if you use it properly and if you actually go ahead and jump in. And Twyla already has her interview scheduled with podcast website, so she's going to let us all know how it goes. Really excited to hear about that. The cool thing is that you actually get to talk to real people. They're all English, so they have like adorable English accents. So you can feel very fancy when you talk to them, okay? But I do want you to go ahead and connect with them if you need some help getting this podcast going. They have tons of resources. If you want to make money off of your podcast, if you want to make money because of your podcast, I'm here to help you because I know how to make money work, okay? But they are pretty cool. All right? But my biggest goal is I want you to start doing what you need to do to get speaking gigs on your calendar. Stop waiting. Life is way too short. All right. Annette is saying podcast websites is worth the investment. I didn't have to switch, but I did for peace of mind, knowing that when I have challenges, I can contact them. I didn't do that with DIY. And I'm just letting you all know that I did not ask Annette to do that. This is not a setup. My dear friend Mark Asquith is one of the co-founders. I love what he's doing, and I love that he is passionate to help podcasters get their voice out there. Annette just happens to be one of their clients, and she loves them. Okay. Beatrice is asking, is there another way to launch a podcast if you cannot afford a podcast website? Yes. We will have to talk about that on a different show because there's another method you can, and it's going to take a few bits and pieces to get out there. On Saturday, I'm going to talk about all of that, on all the tools and everything you need to get going with your podcast. So make sure if you're not able to watch live on Saturday, Beatrice, I'll make sure that you get the link to that show. But it's kind of like taking 7 pieces and figuring it all out yourself. Yes, you can absolutely do it. It just takes a little bit of a learning curve to get your podcast out there. And then you'll be surprised. You probably actually spend more money with all these bits and pieces that you have to keep up versus using them, because you're going to have to pay for a podcast host. If you don't have a website, you're going to have to launch your website, and you don't have to necessarily have a website, but it's all going to come down to your podcasting host, getting the tools, getting the editing software, making sure you learn how to edit properly. If you want to get your intro and outro, you might have to pay someone. If you want to go fancy, I don't do that. You're going to have to pay for some music. So it's all these little bits and pieces that you have to put together, and it's not overly expensive. You can do it. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get all the pieces together and then launch it. So I would say for me, if it depends on how much time you have in your day, I would say give yourself at least 60 to 90 days to get it launched. Okay. Because you got to record the shows and all that stuff. So yes, we'll talk about that on Saturday, Beatrice. But if you do need help, just let me know and I can help you with all the things that I did. And Annette said, but yes, but you have to know that there's more time to invest. Yeah, Annette is replying to you, Beatrice. There's a lot of time you have to invest. So remember, there's this time and money issue, but we'll go over it because you can definitely there is definitely another way. But I just want to be realistic with you. Not saying that you shouldn't do it, just being realistic with the time involved to get it out there. And it can be very time consuming, especially if you get caught up in being perfect. Like I said, it took me a year. It took me a year to actually get everything. And I had all the tools. It just took way too long for me to launch. So, all right. Any other questions? Any other questions? So the link is in the comment box for you on Facebook. So go to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites and just take a look at them. For all of you here on Instagram, just go check the link in the bio. And if I don't have the link in the bio, I'll make sure it pops up in the next hour or so. But the other thing is, I want to let you know that if you did register for this event, if you went to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast week, I know I'm giving you a lot of podcast week things, but or if you check the link in the bio, if you are on my email list, I'm going to send you a code for $10 off for life. If you sign up for podcast websites, okay? It's a $10 off code that should have gone out to you last night, but I'm going to send it to you again, but it's going to be in that email for you to save $10 on your monthly membership with podcast websites for life. All right. So you got to make sure that you're on my email list. Also, for those of you who did register and you're on my email list, you're going to get invited to my very special training. I am announcing the date for you. It is going to be on August 31st, Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. One time only, no replays, a free training on how to land your next 5 speaking gigs. I'm going to give you everything. All right. There are going to be a few conditions. You have to leave a testimonial. That's all. But I'm going to invite you to that very special training. And so, because I want you to land more speaking gigs and I want you to do it now. Okay. I want you to do it right now. And for all this information that we're talking about, it's going to be all collected in one nice, sweet place so that you can go and find later. Okay. Because I need you to be successful. I need you to take on the world. I want to see differences in your business. I want by next summer, I want to hear these messages that Phylecia, I got booked. Here's your invitation. My goal is I want an invitation to see you speak. All right. And by next year, if I'm not getting invitations from you, I'm going to find you. I'm seriously going to find you. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to come and smack you or something. But you need to get out there and start pitching. All right. I need invitations. I need somewhere to travel to, people. I need somewhere to travel to. So yes, the above question. What is your above question, Annette? Your above question, Annette. Put it in here again, because I got a lot of things happening. Oh, are you saying when you work with your client and they have their deliverables ready, as a speaker coordinator, are you able to determine the organizations to pitch? Yes. When I work with people, what I have to do. So Annette is asking me about, so my little ninja skill is that I go out and help people find organizations to pitch for. That's what I do. I know how to do research. What I need is I need to know who you are. And I need to know what you're saying. And it helps me to kind of scope down. Because if you come to me and say, I talk to everyone, I can't, my brain doesn't work that way. I'm kind of like, what? I don't get it. But what I have to do is I have to keep narrowing you down, keep asking you questions. And then after a while, I kind of do work with a little bit of energy. I kind of feel where you are. And then I know which organizations to go after. I'll throw in a little doozies just to see how you react. Like if you're like, oh no, then I'll take them off my list. But I really do. I need to know what you're doing, who you're talking to, so that I can narrow down and help you find gigs. And I'm going to say this for all of you who think you can hire an agent, and you don't have your crap together, I want to leave you with this. If you don't know how to get yourself on stage, no one else will be able to get you on stage. And I'm going to say this again. If you don't know how to get yourself on stage, no one else will be able to get you on stage. This system that I talked about, if you don't have your stuff together, if you don't have your message, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know how to talk, and if you don't know what you're going to say, you cannot hire someone to help you get on stage when you don't know how to do it yourself. And that's where I do turn away a lot of people. They were like, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and I just want you to do it for me. No. If you don't know who you're talking to, how am I supposed to know who you're talking to? No different as a speaker coordinator. And I can tell within the first couple of sentences when you're sending me an email to pitch, it sounds like you don't know who you're talking to because all you do is talk about yourself. And if all you're doing is talking about yourself in a pitch email, that's my first red flag. Not all speaker coordinators are hard asses like me. All right. I'm just pretty much a hard ass, But in the first couple of paragraphs, if all you are doing is talking about yourself and how amazing you are, which I know you are, I know you're amazing, but that's usually a red flag for me to say that you didn't do the research and you don't know who you're talking to. And you don't have a very clear message and you're just kind of spraying and praying. So that's what I want you to realize is that you need to know how to get yourself on stage. It helps me to help you get on stage as well. Because otherwise I'm shooting in the dark. And you're just paying me money and I'm just cashing checks for fun. I know. All right, people. If you need anything, you know how to find me. Oh, Olivia saying preach. I didn't mean to start preaching. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to start preaching. And so Annette is saying, if you don't press record and publish, no one is going to do it for you. No. Isn't that funny how that works? Funny how that works. When you don't do it yourself, nobody's going to be able to do it for you. And trust me, people, as a budgetologist, there are a lot of people who would just gladly take your money and not say a darn thing to get you going in the right direction. I hear it all the time. And that's what I want you to do. You got me talking about money now. You got to be a good CEO and a good CFO for your business and go out and do the work. All right. You got to go out there and do the work. Cashing someone's check is always fun. Yeah, cashing someone else's check is always fun. But if you don't know why you're giving somebody a check, that's a problem. That's a problem. All right, folks, it's time for me to go make some money. Tomorrow is the 15th. That means it's almost CFO day. So before we kick off tomorrow, I'm going to talk about CFO day. And then what are we talking about tomorrow? Tomorrow, we are talking about, the non-glamorous side of podcasting. Consistency. Who knew that word consistency was just going to be a dirty word in our lives? You know, consistency was just like when we were making cake batter. And it's good when it's cake batter. But if you're not doing it in your business, in your podcast, and landing speaking gigs, guess what? You're not going to land speaking gigs or have a podcast. So tomorrow, bright and early, hopefully no technical issues. Hey, Business in a Bucket. Hey, Constantine, how you doing? I can't really see all those words, but what we're going to talk about tomorrow is the non-glamorous side of podcasting. That is consistency, consistency, consistency. And I'm going to just hammer into you why you need to be consistent, because it is vital to you landing speaking gigs. It is vital to you getting your voice out there, and it's vital to you getting your message. Because what you don't want to do is what happened to me. Somebody called me out a week ago and so you haven't uploaded a podcast in about 5 days. Like, ouch, thank you for calling me out. Loaded all those podcasts up. So we're going to talk about consistency, okay? And Twyla is yelling all kinds of cuss words because she's like, consistency. This is like her theme for this week, consistency. Hey, Au Natural, how you doing this morning? We're talking about how to land speaking gigs with your podcast, but I'm about to sign off here on Instagram, so go back and watch the replay. Go back and watch the replay. And of course, I appreciate you for being here. Tashari, thank you so very much. Business in a Bucket. Mr. Tom Drake, all the way from Calgary. And we're going to do karaoke together. Yay! At Success Incubator. Urban Essential Oils. Elaine does Reiki. If I'm missing you, Barb, hey, if I'm missing you, thank you for being here. You know I appreciate you. I couldn't do this if you weren't here. If you need me, you know how to find me. If you have any questions, seriously, any questions, put them in the comment box, DM me. If it's time for us to work together, just let me know and we'll make something happen. So I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Happy budgeting. Bye for my folks over on Instagram. So for those of you who are still here on Facebook, you know I appreciate you. So I know Tom Drake sounds like a celebrity name. Actually, it sounds like a name from Batman. That's Tim Drake. One of the Robins was named Tom Drake. So Annette is so funny. When I met Mark for the first time and he met Tom Drake, we both giggled. We were like, his name is Tom Drake. It's awesome. He is the most amazing guy. He's one of my money nerds from FinCon. Amazing guy. He's in Calgary, Alberta. So if you're ever up there, just give him a holler, okay? So Annette is saying that's where the rubber meets the road. Podcasting, like anything else, requires consistency. Yes, it does. All right, folks, I got to go do some income producing activities. I got to go do a podcast interview, and I got to go work with my speaking client today. So for Erica, Heather, Annette, Twyla, Maia, press publish, girl, press publish. That's all you got to do. Maia, thank you so very much for being here. Hey, Connie, you snuck in. Hey, Connie, thank you so very much for being here. Connie, you should meet Annette. Annette's a dancer. Connie was a former professional cheerleader as well and a dancer. So great. Kat, thank you so very much for being here. Raina, Joseph, Beatrice. Yes. Beatrice, I'm going to have a good answer for you on how to launch your podcast, even if you can't afford podcast websites. So thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate every last one of you. Tomorrow, the non-glamorous side of podcasting, hopefully without technical issues, because that happens too. But if you need me, you know where to find me. If you have any questions, put them in the comment box. You can DM me. If you need to work with me, you know how to find me. But if you need to go schedule your appointment or a talk with podcast websites to see if it's a fit for you, go ahead and do it. Go to keepupmrsjones.com/podcast websites. I promise you that you will be in really good hands so that we can get your podcast out there to start pitching. So Joseph, love you guys. Catch you tomorrow. Thank you so very much, Joseph. See you tomorrow. So take care. Happy budgeting. Bye.